transcribe the words to parchment, and by the time I'm up and about, my private copy of the Daily is here waiting for me in the garden, the ink still drying in the sun. A comfy chair, a sunny spot, the hearty cup of broth, and my own copy of the Daily Acts. I tell you, Gordianus, there's no more civilized way to start the day. I popped an almond into my mouth. It all seems rather antisocial to me, not to mention extravagant, the cost of parchment alone. Squinting at wax tablets gives me eye strain. Lucius sipped his broth. Anyway, I didn't ask you here to critique my personal pleasures, Gordianus. There's something in the Daily that I want you to see. What? The news about that rebellious Roman general terrorizing Spain? Quintus Sertorius. Lucius shifted his considerable bulk. He'll soon have the whole Iberian Peninsula under his control. The natives there hate Rome, but they adore Sertorius. What can our two consuls be thinking, failing to bring military assistance to the provincial government? Decimus Brutus, much as I love the old bookworm, is no fighter, I'll grant you. Hard to imagine him leading an expedition. But his fellow consul Lepidus is a military veteran, fought for Sulla in the Civil War. How can those two sit idly on their behinds while Sertorius creates a private kingdom for himself in Spain? All that's in the Daily Acts? I asked. Of course not, Lucius snorted. Nothing but the official government line. Situation under control, no cause for alarm. You'll find more details about the obscene earnings of charioteers than you'll find about Spain. What else can you expect? The Daily is a state organ put out by the government. Deci probably dictates every word of the war news himself. Deci? Decimus Brutus, of course, the consul. With his ancient patrician connections, Lucius tended to be on a first-name basis, sometimes on a pet-name basis, with just about everybody in power. But you distract me, Gordianus. I didn't ask you here to talk about Sertorius. Decimus Brutus, yes. Sertorius, no. Here, have a look at this. His bejewelled hand flitted over the pile and plucked a scroll for me to read. Society gossip? I scanned the items. A's son engaged to B's daughter. C plays host to D at his country villa. E shares her famous family recipe for egg custard, dating back to the days when Romulus suckled the she-wolf. I grunted. All very interesting, but I don't see— Lucius leaned forward and tapped at the scroll. Read that part, aloud. The bookworm pokes his head outside tomorrow. Easy prey for the sparrow, but partridges go hungry. Bright-eyed Sappho says, be suspicious. A dagger strikes faster than lightning. Better yet, an arrow. Let Venus conquer all. Lucius sat back and crossed his fleshy arms. What do you make of it? I believe it's called a blind item, a bit of gossip conveyed in code. No proper names, only clues that are meaningless to the uninitiated. Given the mention of Venus, I imagine this particular item is about some illicit love affair. I doubt I'd know the names involved, even if they were clearly spelled out. You'd be more likely than I to know what all this means, Lucius. Indeed. I'm afraid I do know, at least in part. That's why I called you here today, Gordianus. I have a dear friend who needs your help. I raised an eyebrow. Lucius's rich and powerful connections had yielded me lucrative work before. They had also put me in great danger. What friend would that be, Lucius? He raised a finger. The slaves around us silently withdrew into the house. Discretion, Gordianus, discretion. Read the item again. The bookworm. And whom did I call a bookworm only a moment ago? I blinked. Decimus Brutus, the consul. Lucius nodded. Read on. The bookworm pokes his head outside tomorrow. Deci will venture to the Circus Maximus tomorrow to watch the races from the consular box. Easy prey for the sparrow. Or draw your own conclusion from that, especially with the mention of daggers and arrows later on. I raised an eyebrow. You think there's a plot against the consul's life, based on a blind item in the Daily Acts? It seems far-fetched, Lucius. It's not what I think. It's what Deci himself thinks. The poor fellow's in a state. Came to my house and roused me out of bed an hour ago, desperate for advice. He needs someone to get to the bottom of this, quietly and quickly. I told him I knew